Can Britney Spears force the attorneys for Jamie Spears to turn over their entire file and answer questions under oath? Absolutely she can. Let's break it down. My name is Christopher Melcher. I'm a California attorney, and I watched the New York Times documentary on controlling Britney Spears. It was heartbreaking, but when I woke up this morning, there was a tweet by Special Agent Hooper who made this amazing legal find. The tweet says, "Just found this interesting tidbit. Attorney-client privilege has a fiduciary exception. If Jamie was to be replaced, the successor would have access to all communications between Jamie and his lawyers." Special Agent Hooper is right. This is a great legal find that a lot of lawyers wouldn't even catch, so I had to make a video on it. And it shows that the Free Britney movement that's grown out of love for Britney Spears is so much more powerful than the actions of a few who are motivated by greed or the desire to control another human. So what is the attorney-client privilege and why is this so important? When a client is in legal trouble, they need to turn to a lawyer to get advice. And the only way that can happen is through secrecy. The client is worried about their legal exposure, so they're going to tell all the secrets to the lawyer so the lawyer can understand what happened and give advice about it. The only way that works is if the communications between the lawyer and client are privileged, which means that a court cannot compel the lawyer or the client to talk about those confidential communications. And this is a very strong privilege. There's very few exceptions to it. And because there's a guarantee of secrecy, clients tell their lawyers everything, and lawyers take that to the grave. But it's the client who controls whether to waive the privilege. And the holder of that privilege is not necessarily the person who sought legal advice from the lawyer. Normally it is, but when the client is acting in a representative capacity, the holder of the privilege is the organization or entity on which the client acted. Jamie Spears hired lawyers in his capacity as conservator of the estate. Those lawyers were retained and paid for by Britney's estate and therefore work for her estate. And when Jamie was speaking to them, he was doing so on behalf of the conservatorship. The client was the office of the conservator, not Jamie individually. And we've seen this distinction in property transactions that Jamie's been involved in or business dealings where Jamie will sign on behalf of the conservatorship or as conservator of the estate. So even though he's signing these documents or taking these actions personally, he's doing so on behalf of the estate in a representative capacity. Well, he was doing the same thing when he was talking to the lawyers. The privilege is not his to waive or assert. It belongs to whoever is the conservator of the estate. And hopefully that's going to be changing pretty quick. The rule was explained in a case called Fiduciary International Trust of California versus Conrad Lee Klein. And I'm going to have the link to that case in the description. The case involved a beneficiary of a trust. The trustee was removed and replaced. The successor trustee wanted all the communications that the former trustee had with the lawyer for the trust. The former trustee said, "No, I'm not turning those over. It's attorney-client privilege." And the court in this case said the successor trustee has the right to that file and required it to be turned over. Matthew Rosengart must know about this because his firm, Greenberg Traurig, was the attorney for the beneficiary in that case. Conservatorships are the same for purposes of this rule. There is no question that those attorney-client files belong to Britney's estate and that a successor conservator will have the right to demand all of the attorney-client files for any attorney who's acted on behalf of the conservator. And the attorneys must turn over those files immediately because the client file belongs to the client. It's client property. It does not belong to the attorney. So why does this matter? Well, Jamie was represented by some pretty big law firms, and they keep meticulous records. And this has gone on for 13 years. There's, of course, going to be email communications, letters in there. There's also going to be inter-office memos about things that Jamie has said or that the team was worried about happening. There'll be internal investigations. We have the media matters, the surveillance that we're learning about. There'll be discussions about what to tell the court or not to tell the court. There's going to be documents about how to address the complaints by Britney about the conservatorship, even if there were phone calls between Jamie and an attorney, those calls were most likely documented because there's so many attorneys involved in this case. We often see interoffice memos to update the rest of the team saying, hey, I just talked to Jamie. Jamie just told me this. This is a goldmine of evidence. 13 years of incriminating documents that will expose not only Jamie, but everyone else who's been involved in this and also implicate their attorneys. It'll be delicious to watch them being slow roasted over this information. And this goes beyond the physical file. The attorneys and Jamie can be compelled to answer questions about everything that they talked about in the last 13 years, including these media matters and the surveillance. And I imagine that they will assert their privilege against self-incrimination because of the potential criminal conduct that's involved here. But the Fifth Amendment does not extend to documents. If documents exist, a person could be compelled to turn those over even though the document is incriminatory. The Fifth Amendment only protects these people from having to speak about those documents, but the documents themselves must be turned over. This is excellent news, and I like the strategy that Matthew Rosengart is using by having Jamie removed, replaced by a temporary conservator of the estate who would wind this thing down while also getting the file. And it will be explosive. Hey, thanks for watching. Keep those tweets coming. We'll see you next time.